Mm-hmm. Are we live? Are we live? Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy Friday. I have a little bit of a... Oh, actually, wait, my camera. How'd that happen? Knocked my camera kind of in a weird spot. All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you all are doing well. You get to appreciate a little bit of a deeper, more sultry voice for me on this Friday evening because I've had a cold and I feel all the way better. I'm having a little bit of like a throat thing still. Like my voice sounds different, but I feel fine. I took like 4 COVID tests. It's not COVID. Thankfully, a little bit of a cold. Had some fun nose stuff happen. It was like weird having a cold. I feel like I haven't had just like a cold in like half a decade, so it's kind of been a weird experience. And I do apologize about starting late, as I put in the pinned comment up there. I was taking a blood impact play class, so had to stay there for the whole time. I actually ended up leaving before they were totally done, but I sort of felt like I knew where they were going, so I skipped the last 10, 15 minutes to make sure I wasn't too late for y'all. But thank you all so much for being here on this Friday with me. I had a cold too. I still have symptoms. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Like I really just only had like nose stuff. Like it was like runny nose, stuffy nose, dry nose. That's honestly dry. Like a painfully dry nose is like the worst. I think actually I hate that. If I'm trying to sleep, stuffy nose is the worst, but sensation-wise, a dry nose is like, no thank you. Yeah, it made my voice a little different, which I was like, I wasn't sure. I haven't really said anything out loud today yet, so I'm like, does my voice sound different? Yep. Yep, it does. That's such a cute top. It was to drive my sensory issues wild. I know. I was going through my closet today, and I found I love these like lettuce cut like tops. Oh, they're my favorite. I wish I had a short sleeve one. But I found this when I was cleaning out my closet, and I was like, ooh, I never wear that. I should wear that. It's really cute. I feel like with like a little necklace. It's very like Normie Evie hangs out with her family, like kind of top. But we like versatile style. So before I get too distracted with anything other than the usual things we talk about here on the stream, which to be frank, I'm kind of always getting distracted. This is nothing but a series of segues. That's just what my live streams are. But in case you're not familiar, you haven't been here before, this is an 18+ only live stream. We talk about all different subjects ranging from kink, BDSM, polyamory, dating, relationship stuff, queer issues, all of that, pop culture happenings, etc. And some of that stuff obviously is like more appropriate for younger people to hear, but because we talk about adult relationships, sexuality, and BDSM, we just make sure that everyone here in our participatory audience is 18+ for everyone's safety, well-being, and comfort, because, well, that's just what would be safe. Just don't be 15 and be talking to people in my chat. That's a reasonable rule that I have, I feel like. We can also read the rules in the FAQ down below. Really quick, really simple. We just have some links to commonly asked questions, like if you want to know where to buy gear from, what books I recommend, etc. Currently, I decided I'm now going to start sharing the current books that I'm reading, because I found out that Powell's has used book alerts, so I get emails whenever a book I want, if there's a new used copy of it, I can go and pick it up. It's a problem. But I'm currently reading Tell Me What You Want by Justin LaMiller. If you guys watch my content, I reference stuff from Justin's blog all the time. This is the book he made about his research. I think a little more than halfway. Yeah, I'm like, because the kind of back chunk of this is actually just a bibliography and citations. So I'm like, a hair under 2/3 of the way through, I think. And this is really good. It's a really easy read if you want to understand more about sexual fantasies, which is the whole thing the book is based on, is studying sexual fantasies. This is a really good read. There's some really interesting stuff in here about BDSM fantasies and people who fantasize about BDSM versus people who are practicing BDSM, and where those things overlap and where they're different. So I'm thinking of making a video where I talk specifically about the findings related to BDSM in this book, because a lot of it is very contradictory either to other studies about people that are practicing BDSM or are just like, things that I think we in the community have thought for a long time, but maybe not have evidence for. So I'm really into this one. This is a good one. I think there's like a couple different cover versions. So if you don't want one that has like a bunch of people's limbs all over it, there's like a plain, more, I guess, family friendly version of this book you can get to. But this one's really good. That's what I've been reading lately, but so many good books about kink, BDSM, human sexuality out there. Anyways, that's basically what y'all need to know. Please be respectful in the chat. Listen to the mods. Listen to me. You guys can ask about whatever you want. I usually put stuff in the title of the live stream as an idea. This week, it is our 300th live stream, which is wild. That is wild, because I do these once a week. So it's not like we're doing a daily stream and we're not even to like a year of streams yet. Like, no. We do these like once a week, and we're at 300. Obviously with exceptions for, being sick, holidays, etc. So we've been streaming for, what would that be? God, like 6 years? Has it been that long? Yeah, because of 52 weeks in a year, right? Am I bad at math? It's a long time. It's a lot of live streams. That is a lot of live streams, y'all. But thank you all so much for being here and spending some of your Friday evening with me. Feel free to ask whatever you want. I answer questions in the order they come into the chat. So asking early, being here early is always the best way to make sure that you get your question answered and in a great, some would say unnecessary amount of detail. And we have a little back and forth here with our chat because we have a really nice group of people that hang out here on Fridays and also lend their expertise, opinions, etc. And also, just have a little follow-up back and forth. So we have different ideas about stuff. And of course, I did recently publish a video yesterday about Folsom Street Fair, and I felt like it might be a good idea to talk a little bit more about Folsom because I felt like, to me, I guess it's sort of obvious what Folsom is and what it looks like, and I got enough comments to where I was like, maybe I need to explain Folsom a little more. Maybe I need to go into more detail about this because I feel like people are not understanding it. So maybe before I get too far into it, I will just say what I want to say about like Folsom as an event. And then if people have questions about Folsom and questions about the video I made or thoughts they want to contribute to that, because I definitely saw some ones that maybe are worth talking about in more detail, we can do that. But just to be totally clear, of course, I have not been to Folsom since before COVID. So the last year I went was 2019. I gone a couple of times. I feel like, from what I understand, the event has not changed in any kind of radical way post-COVID. Post-COVID, COVID obviously is still around. And I only know what I know about the event. I haven't been there for like the entire event, right? Like normally when I would go to Folsom, this is my experience. We would go basically as soon as they opened up in the morning, and I want to say that would be about like 10 a.m. And then we'd stay until like the afternoon. Like I want to say we'd leave between like before sunset. So we'd stay until like maybe 3, maybe 4. We'd be there for a long time. We'd be outside. But I mostly remember being in like the vendors area and like watching other people play. We never stayed for so long that it got like packed crowded to where like you were like a sardine in a can and like you could barely move. I specifically tailored my version of Folsom so that way I could actually enjoy the fair part of the fair and not just like being as close to other human beings as possible. So I have one perspective that's based on that. I know I got both comments from people saying that their favorite part of Folsom is all the public sex, and also people saying that the part that they hate about Folsom is all the public sex, and if it's against the rules, why does it happen so much? And I have to be honest, maybe it's my brain because I feel like maybe this is just part of like the ace spectrum experience is you don't register and like preserve sexual content the way that other people's brains do. And I definitely remember being at Folsom and seeing a lot of like naked guys, various body types, various ages, but generally, older white guys hanging out, no clothes on or shirt cocking it, walking around with like various states of arousal in the penile region, and that would sometimes include kind of like idle stroking or looking at things, and that was uncomfortable. I wasn't a fan of that because like I don't go to Folsom to have random people look at me and then pleasure themselves. Like that's not the point of Folsom for me. Some people I'm sure like are really into that, but that's not my Folsom, and I don't remember seeing any like, because also what does sex mean? What does sex mean? Philosophical question. Because, you could look at something like, let's say there's a woman in a kiddie pool and, 5 guys are all trying to pee on her at the same time in sort of like a pee bukkake kind of way. Like, that's like, that could definitely be seen as a sex act, but it's not technically sex. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much!
Dickman donated $30.
Oh crap. I forgot about my headphones.
300 streams. Hope you have enjoyed the journey so far.
Thank you so much. So Nathan says thank you so much for 300 dreams. Yes, I have very much enjoyed the journey. That woke up Bandita. She's a little grumpy. she's in her little hidey hole right now. She's like, "What are you doing, woman?" But yeah, thank you. I have enjoyed it. It's been a fun time. And anyways, let's get back to talking about Folsom and water sports bukkake. Bukkake, if you will. That sounds like... bukkake. That sounds like if... NBC's the Peacock Network, right? It's like if NBC sponsored a bukkake live stream. Like they have the Olympics coverage and then and then after that, we just have like a bukkake competition. Okay, I'm in a silly mood, obviously. Oh my gosh, Twixie, thank you so much. Twixie gifted 10 memberships. I didn't even get to talk about memberships yet. So we have memberships here. And if you want to become a member, the reason that exists is because it is the only way for me to have emotes in my live stream chat. If you would like to have emotes and ridicule me for drinking out of a water bottle, for example, out of my obnoxious giant water bottle, there's an emote for that. And you can use it if you become a member. It's 99 cents, which is as cheap as I'm physically allowed to make it. When it comes to water sports, more is sometimes definitely not better. Yeah, I don't know. I've never done a group water sport scene. It's not really top of my list, to be honest. So welcome to all of the new members. Welcome to all the new Lupineers. Thank you all so much for being here on this Friday. So with Folsom, I don't remember seeing, like, when I think people are talking about, oh, I saw sex at Folsom, what I think they're talking about is like PIV, PIA, maybe oral. Genuinely, and I haven't gone back and watched my old videos about going to Folsom, so maybe, again, brain bias, not preserving any sexual content I'm seeing intentionally. So maybe I did see sex and I just I'm forgetting that I saw it. But I don't think I saw anything like that other than occasionally. And it is against the rules of the event. However, when you have thousands of people coming in and out of an event for the entire course of a day, like even with the support of local law enforcement, you are playing whack-a-mole with like people's genitalia and like, are they just walking somebody by their cock on a leash, or are they engaging in a sex act? Like, you get to play that game. And I would love to know if anyone's ever volunteered for Folsom, or even, this would be wild, but somebody who is part of like the law enforcement that works with the people who run Folsom. Do you have to have specific training on like what counts as a sex act and like when you have to break it up or not? Because I feel like that would be very entertaining to learn about. The color of my drink? Oh yeah, it's orange. What do you people talk? If your pee is this color, you need to go to the doctor, or else, or you're taking some kind of medication for a UTI. It's orange. Your piss is orange. You have a problem. I think also the purple. The purple probably also makes it like the color wise look a little bit different. Yes, it's a creatine electrolyte beverage. I actually don't have electrolytes in it today. It's just creatine today. But like, if I'm, I thought about it because I've been a little sick. I'm like, maybe I should take some more electrolytes, but I've been slamming the nutritional yeast. I think I'm good. But Folsom, sex happening there. Don't really remember. It is against the rules of the event. Like, Folsom is, like, you know how there's always, not to invite this conversation in November, but you know how there's discourse about kink at Pride? And every year, literally, I have this book, okay? I have this, another Powell's Books purchase. This is out of print. You can't find this. I would love for this to be archived somehow. It's called Beneath the Skins, The New Spirit and Politics of the Kink Community. This is, when was this published? 90-something, I think. Originally it was $5. This is by Iowa Dominguez. 1994. I was literally born the year this book was published. And it talks about, in 1994, the politics of kink at Pride. This has been a very ongoing conversation for literally my entire lifetime. And it is not something that I think we're going to come to any kind of conclusion about, but one of the, I guess I would say, problems with the, and thank you for the super chat, Alex. I will get to that in a moment, but YouTube saved them, so I will go and finish this thing talking about kink at Pride, and then we will get to your question, or your story at least. But with Folsom and with Kink at Pride, people get worried about Kink at Pride because, like, Pride gets marketed as this family-friendly event, and, you know, it's supposed to be all ages because, you know, you can be a teenager and know you're queer and, like, want to go to Pride for, you know, community support or going there with, you know, your parents maybe. And so mixing, like, adult sexuality and, like, pride about your identity is kind of fraught, right, at the bare minimum. And I get that. Like, yeah, if a pride event is being marketed as a all ages, family friendly, you know, bring your toddler with you, you know, pancake breakfast thing, and then suddenly there's a flogging happening with as people, you know, wearing no clothing, just nude, broad daylight at the pancake brunch, that's going to be a problem. I get that. I do. I understand that would make people uncomfortable. I'm not advocating for that to happen and suddenly flogging at the pancake brunch. But I think that there is a place for kink at Pride. We will maybe never fully agree on what that should look like or where it should happen, but it is going to be there. However, because there's not like explicit kink, there's not like intercourse happening at Pride parades, they're maybe not as... They're not as active about disclosing all the things that can happen, and depending on what Pride event you're at in the local community can look very different from place to place, whereas Folsom is like one event in one location. There's also one in Berlin that, from my understanding from people who've been there, you have to keep your genitals covered up. You actually can't be like naked at Berlin Folsom. And there's one that I think is either going to happen or is like a really new event in Australia. I don't even know what the rules for that one would be, but Folsom's like a very singular event. It's in San Francisco. It's been around for a very, very long time, multiple decades. And it also is ran with the sanctioning of the local city government. The people who are on the city council, like, know what's happening. And when I've been there before, as I was saying in the video, like, you kind of know what's happening for blocks ahead of time. Like, when you're walking there in your Uber or whatever, going to the place. First of all, it's in a very industrial neighborhood. Like, I think people were thinking about this, like, well, but I don't want kids to see it. Like, the Soma district, which is south of Market, which is where this happens, like many neighborhoods, is in like a more industrial part of the city. That's why they made Folsom, to fight against the area being gentrified, because it was a working class neighborhood. I think it's near the docks. I'm not, my geography of San Francisco is like not super clear in my head, but it's like a lot of other, actually let me look at that. I want to make sure I'm not like neighborhood. I'm bad at knowing. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it's right near the water. It's south of Chinatown. It's in this like part of the city that is not, it's not like a bustling neighborhood full of kids and parks. Like it's not a residential area. Almost all of the businesses in the area, like a good portion of them, are adult oriented or around the BDSM community in some way. I know that there's like dance studios there. There at least used to be, though I'm not sure if it's still there or not. Wicked Grounds, Mr. S is there. There is Leather, etc. There's a lot of other adult oriented businesses that are right in that area. It's not necessarily like, you know, there are people who live there. Obviously, there's a lot of, you know, there's shops, and then obviously there can be apartments above them. But it's not like it's like happening outside of like several blocks of just apartment buildings where like thousands of people who don't know anything about kink are like being forced to see this because it's a more industrial neighborhood. So when you're heading up to the event, you kind of get a sense of what's going on because you got a bunch of people wearing harnesses and little booty shorts, and I don't even know some of the terminology for some of the things people are wearing when they go to Folsom, but you get a sense of what's happening. And then there's gates that you have to pass through before you actually let in to the fair itself. And depending on how busy it is, you may kind of already, when you're at the gate, see a lot of stuff. But if you're going there like first thing, the only thing you really see is like booths. Like you don't really see anything else just at the gates. And then you're let in. They don't allow kids, though technically because it is public land and it's a public road for, I think probably, though I don't know for sure, I haven't checked, for egress and ingress reasons, they're not technically allowed to like forcibly make it so you can't access the public roads. They just really strongly discourage you from doing that. And I've never seen a kid there. I've never heard of anyone seeing a kid there before. So they make it very clear that like, this is an adults only thing. No, don't bring your dog. Don't bring your kids. All right. This is for adults, and it's in an area where it's going to be a little more isolated, not in like the middle of a bunch of apartment complexes. And yeah, it's very, you know, we were getting into, again, it's also very well documented. So there can't be any, like, if you Google it, there can't be any surprises about what's happening there. And they are very conscientious of like maintaining their good relationship with the city. And yes, there is public play there. Yes, there is nudity. Yes, there are people taking photos. All that is happening. But they do genuinely try, like, their signage. Like, they don't want anyone to be shocked that they walked into the big gay public nudity event. Like, they make it very clear. It's sort of like, you know, like there are people who find like naked bike rides to be distasteful. But if there's been publications in the news for years about like Portland, November 13th, big naked bike ride coming up, there's signage about it, it's clearly marked, and you know the naked bike ride is coming. When you go outside to watch the naked bike ride, you cannot therefore be shocked that the naked bike ride is happening. Like, it's you got to pick and choose your battles on that one. So Folsom, I think, is very good at maintaining those positive relationships, and also, like, you know, people there, like, the reason why there are so many tourists who are there that are not in the kink community is because it has such a big reputation, and that's why it's so popular. I'm pleasantly surprised that they would approve it, and happy 300. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm very surprised. I think, you know, I don't really know anything about local San Francisco politics. I can't really speak to why it's allowed. I'm imagining it's because they have a very local, like, hub of liberal city government, and also probably a fair number of LGBT people that are part of leadership in the city. And it's like, it is probably a really good moneymaker for the city. Like, there's all kinds of events leading up to Folsom itself. Also, by the way, if you ever want to go there, it is at the very end of September. I don't remember what weekend if it's like a specific weekend, but it's like the last weekend or like the second to last weekend in September. It says on the website. And it's not like, you know how like going to a BDSM convention, like the tickets themselves are like $200. Well, if you want to go on the cheap, it's like really cheap, or like I think there's like a donation, like you have to donate to get in. I don't remember if there's like a minimum donation, how much it is. And also I don't know if that's changed since I've been there. But it's not like you have to pay in advance like a $200 ticket or anything and they're going to sell out. Like, it's pretty affordable to get in. And if you can like couch surf or like stay in somebody's, you know, like get a group room with some people at a hotel, like you can make going there actually really affordable. It doesn't have to be a big expensive thing. There's so many events in and around Folsom for other parties, other events, educational stuff happening. Like, if you wanted to go to San Francisco for like a week, either on either side of Folsom, but probably before it's going to be more events. There's like after parties and stuff for Folsom too, but most of the stuff's front loaded from my understanding. If you're going to go for like a week ahead of time and kind of have Folsom itself be like a cap to that experience. Yeah. Yep, honestly, if you're a tourist that is accidentally south of Geary past the 101, you're already in a very tough part of town. Yeah, like I've been around Soma, like not associated with Folsom, because I've gone to like Mr. S. Leather. There's like a dance studio that I've visited before, and it's not like it's not the kind of neighborhood that generally gets a lot of foot traffic. It's not the kind of neighborhood people are just like waltzing around, seeing what's up. Like, it's not that part of San Francisco. It's like, it's sort of, I don't know what a good, like, equivalent would be for, like, say, Seattle. I don't know. I don't think that there is, like, a close equivalent of, like, a Seattle neighborhood that's equally, like, sort of, like, Georgetown, maybe? Like, people don't really go waltzing around Georgetown, do they? I guess not. Sinji says, I got into the BDSM knowledge, which was 15. Oh, so you were 15? But I was hardcore researching. When did you really know you liked it? Had a feeling you were into the idea of BDSM. Did you do research? That's a great question. So I got, I started. So the thing I usually say is, I think I talked about this in a recent video, is I knew from like maybe when I was a teenager, like 15-ish maybe, that I didn't know explicitly that it was like BDSM, but I had like fantasies and ideas in my head that, ooh, this would be fun. This, it makes sparkles happen in my brain. I think it's probably how I describe the feeling. I got sparkles in my brain, thinking about certain sort of kink adjacent things that I did not realize were kinky at that time. And I thought it was just something that you thought about because it was fun to think about, or you read about it in books, or maybe you talked about it a little bit, like over text message with your boyfriend, but you did not actually act on it in real life. People didn't do kink for real. People didn't do stuff like that for real. It's just for role play, just for just online fun. That's it. That's all it is. And then when I got into college and I started to kind of process and work through my complete lack of knowledge of human sexuality, part of that was also learning about kink, and like 50 Shades of Grey, the movies were coming out, and that was a really hot button topic, which I'm sure actually like accelerated my participation in kink, simply because it was constantly kind of, when something's talked about a lot, it tends to be on the brain a little bit more actively that way. And then even though I knew I was interested in it beforehand, when I figured out, people actually do this for real, that was the moment when I was like, I think I actually really want to try doing this, paired with discovering what pet play was. Because I was always a kid that like loved imagination play, loved playing pretend, and I got bullied about it, and I just wanted to kind of recapture that, and I always thought it'd be really fun to do that in a relationship. And again, I went, oh my gosh, I didn't know people could do that for real in adult relationships. This sounds really fun. And then I, made a FetLife account, found out where a local dungeon was, and sort of the rest is history, right? But I don't know if my experience is a good rule book for other people to follow, because my experience of kink was basically like, I'd been thinking about it for a long time, I knew what it was, and I kind of had talked about it in maybe more like a philosophical kind of academic way before getting into the community myself. And then I discovered what kink was. I broke up with a vanilla boyfriend that I had been with for like, let's say in and around a year, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. And then after we broke up, I was like, well, now I'm not with anybody, so I'm just going to go full steam ahead, and I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to go to a BDSM event. I'm going to see what it's like. So I made a FetLife account. I met people through there. They went to my college. And, before I knew it, I was going to my first kink event, and there I was. I did not have, because I didn't know that kink education like existed. Like, I didn't know that you could like buy books about this. I didn't know there weren't YouTube videos at the time. There, like, What's a Safe Word hadn't started to make videos yet. There was maybe stuff from Morgan Thorne, but again, I didn't even know to look for it. The only thing was like social media. I found like Pet Play, Instagram, and like Pet Play was on Tumblr and stuff too. And that was really it. So I didn't know that you could like, I didn't know how you actually learned how to do kink until I started to participate in the local community. And then I learned about, there's classes and people write books about this, because there was like a little like lending library in my local dungeon. And that's sort of what got the wheels turning into education. Like, I knew that there were blogs, and I was reading like blogs and articles about kind of more basic kink stuff, like what is pet play? How do you do it? But I didn't know the emphasis on education that there was. And, I wasn't fully 100% sure what I would like, if I would like things as much as I thought I would, what my role would be, any of that, until I started to actually do it. But I just kind of winged it. To be honest, I just kind of went into it and went, ooh. This is my time to discover stuff, and that was more or less it. And then as I learned about more different things, I got the opportunity to try stuff with different people and go to more events. And I think some people, they know very deeply immediately, like, this is what I am, this is what I want to do, and they start doing it right away. And I've certainly met a lot of people that were like tying up their girlfriends with like stuff that they stole from the garage, at 15. Like, that's a thing that happens too. But for some people, like, all the time I get people, in comments or in this chat who are like, oh my gosh, I'm like 52, I just got divorced, and like, I can't believe that it's taken me this long to like discover kink. And, for that, if that's kind of the situation you're in, like, everyone comes by it in their own time. Like, some people know at 15, some people know at 50. And especially when you are older, the more likely you are to have been in a home situation or a generation where you had less than no sex ed. There were no public conversations about BDSM other than maybe like Madonna when you were a young person. Like, ooh, Madonna made like a spicy coffee table book. Like, that's kind of the most you were getting out of that. Or maybe if you're like a high fashion person, you saw like early Alexander McQueen collections or something. It was, or maybe like punk. Maybe if you were part of like the punk subculture or the goth subculture, maybe you would have seen some things through that or heard some things through that. But there was just so much less like cultural awareness of it and less conversation about it because we didn't have the internet. Everything was a lot more segmented. And if you get married at 20, you're in a monogamous marriage for 30 years, and you maybe like you can't even look at like vanilla porn. Like, are you going to be Googling BDSM on your home computer next to your spouse? Probably not. Like, it takes us longer. That's okay. It just happens sometimes. And it's not about feeling sad that you couldn't do something sooner. It's about making the most of the time that you have. And also the fact that you have all of that life experience, you're maybe more settled in your career, you have more relationship experience than other people do. It's not that like, ooh, the ideal way of getting into BDSM is as early as possible. You know how many people I've heard of that get into the BDSM community at 18, immediately do a lot of fucked up intense shit, and then like leave the community permanently, like 20, like way too many people. There are a lot of people who get into kink between like 18 and 25, and like I didn't really hit the ground running in terms of intensity. Like, I didn't do any like really extreme kinks like immediately or anything. And some people can handle that. Like, some people, their psyche, their interest level, maybe they have, experience or knowledge doing more intense things in other parts of their life. Like, they're an ultra marathon runner, or they're a professional piercer or something. Like, I don't know. And that makes sense for them. That's how they are as a person. But for most people, like, they're not going to come in at 18 and have the ideal experience because you don't have any adult relationship experience, probably. If you do, it's very limited. You're still working on, like, boundary setting, communication, especially if you're, like, a young femme person. You probably are, like, not super great at setting boundaries, even if you know what they are. You're probably, like, a people pleaser. Like, you got a lot of stuff you got to work on, when you're a young person getting into kink. That by the time you're, like, a 40-year-old woman, you're like, fuck all you people, I know what I want. I'm done with this bullshit. And you just go for what you want. And having that knowledge and skill helps out, which I realize is not really your question, but I wanted the opportunity to soapbox about that because, there's no particular right age or wrong age other than below the age of 18 is too young. It's pretty much it. I wish I got back into it earlier. Then again, I was in Salt Lake City, so it may have been a complete wash anyways. About the kink scene in SLC is downright perverted. From what I've heard, there is a sizable kink scene in Salt Lake City. Whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, I don't know. Haven't had any detailed conversations about that. I'll never forget my mom's story stumbling into a dungeon accidentally and had a great time just walking around and educating herself, sipping some coffee. That's like the beginning of a romance novel. I think I've read that before. I don't remember if that's like Claire Thompson. I don't remember who wrote that. There was a BDSM romance novel I read like a couple years ago when I was in that phase of like trying to discover if there's any good kink romance novels at all. And there's one where like she has, do people remember that video I made? Like she gets like a flat tire, or she pops a tire, ends up in a ditch or something, and these like hot guys show up and like help her out. And then, or she like shows up on their doorstep or something, and it's raining because it's Florida and it's all muddy and gross outside. And then they let her in, and then she finds out it's a dungeon, and it's like, and then she tries to interfere in a scene because she thinks somebody's being beaten against their will, and like the whole deal. And then suddenly she likes BDSM because they punish her. And oh my god. I remember way more. That's all I remember about that book. It's just like the first like 20 pages. And then after that, it just got deleted from my brain. All right, I know there were some other super chats I didn't get to, so let me get back to those real quick. Let's see. I hope it isn't super confusing. I'm not ace, but I found my human, but I'm not in love with them. Sorry for needlessly confusing story, Leia. No problem at all. Let me look back. God, I wish that YouTube had the feature that Twitch does where I can just click on somebody's name and see all of their chats. Like, YouTube, please. YouTube, I will pay you to make this feature. If I was a millionaire, I would pay you to enable this feature for your live stream so I can take advantage of it. But let me look. Oh, no. Actually, it's great. You just reposted. Okay, perfect. No, that's great, Alex. You are spot on here. I've been with my partner for 4-ish months, and a lot has happened. Okay. That could be good or bad. We'll see. I've told my partner that I'm not in love with them, but I know they love me. They're my person, but I've told them I don't see them in a romantic light. We also both understand that we both just don't want to be alone and don't want to keep looking for a partner. Is this relationship destined to collapse? Should we break it off before it ends poorly? Or should we stay together as long as it's working? Please tell me what love is. LOL, but really. Okay, so everyone has a different understanding of what love is. I would say if you've been together, and everyone's going to feel differently about this, I feel like, is there like a book that talks about this? I feel like maybe it's in one of Gottman's books, because Gottman loves writing about love. That's kind of his whole deal. So I might recommend, so if you like reading, this is not necessarily a specific book that I'd recommend, but this is like the guy who writes about love. So this is John Gottman, and co-authored by Nan Silver, but who I'm really recommending in this situation is John Gottman. Is a lot of books and writing about like difference between like love and limerence and crushes and lust and all of these things. And I would say that chances are, if you've been together for 4 months, what you are experiencing is probably not like genuine, true love, whatever that means. Limerence is certainly very possible, which can I pull up? Maybe I should pull up like, what is a good definition for limerence? Because I find a lot of people, this is like, if you're in the poly world, this is limerence is sort of what like new relationship energy feeds off of. And this is like what causes a lot of, and when I Google this, every post is about limerence versus love. So this is here. I'll just, I'm not saying this is like the authoritative one, but I think this looks like it's very comprehensive. So, limerence is intense obsessive infatuation characterized by intrusive thoughts and idealization stemming from unmet emotional needs, overwhelming preoccupation, emotional volatility, and idealization, which got repeated twice, can lead to unbalanced power dynamics and unrealistic expectations, typically is more short-lived and may fade once the initial infatuation wanes, is a temporary state fueled by a need for validation. It can profoundly impact and create consuming thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Both limerence and love involve intense emotions such as attraction and desire for another person. They can both bring excitement, passion, and a sense of connection between individuals. Both limerence and love often involve a desire for emotional closeness and intimacy with the object of the person's affection. They can influence behavior, leading individuals to prioritize their feelings for other people and make decisions based on their emotions. So based on what you're saying about like both of you kind of like just not wanting to be alone, this to me sounds based on like, and I'm not a doctor, not a therapist, I'm not your therapist, but to me that initially to me sounds like actually what your other person is experiencing is not love possibly, but it is limerence because it's based off of this like desire for like a preoccupied attachment that you don't want to have to give up on. So possibly the good news is that you're not experiencing unreciprocated love. You're not reciprocating back. What you're experiencing in the relationship is unreciprocated limerence, which actually is not the worst thing possible. But like love is like a lot more multifaceted. It's a lot more stable. It's empathetic. It's committed to both participants. like well-being, emotional growth. It's about trust, mutual respect. Like that's kind of how I would characterize like what love looks like. Like limerence can be really intense, and there's certainly overlap between it, and to a certain extent kind of that like preoccupation with other people. Like I could argue that for some people their love does also look like and kind of lean into that like almost obsessive preoccupation from maybe like more of a service perspective of like really wanting to make sure the other person is happy and taken care of, as opposed to like who are you texting? Like, you know, there's a difference between like how much are you talking to me, who are you texting, like, well, are you spending every possible second together, versus like that kind of more like I want to make sure that my human is being taken care of and like they're getting their favorite things and they're growing and we're growing, and like that actually I think can be a positive thing. So hopefully that kind of helps maybe outline some of the differences between those two things. And I think, you know, is it doomed, you know, is it doomed to fail? Okay, so I'm going to say no, but I'm trying to get back to where my actual like stream layout is at. I clicked away and I have too many tabs open here. Here we go. Okay. So I would say, you know, no relationship is doomed to fail just because of like emotions happening. But most relationships don't last, right? Like 99% of monogamous relationships don't last for an entire lifetime. So at some point, the current state of your relationship will probably change. Maybe you might go back to being friends. Maybe you might continue to do this. Maybe you might find eventually that you do develop romantic feelings for this person. I think what's most important is like you need to have a conversation about, hey, I think that based on what you're describing to me, what I'm seeing you experience, this could possibly be limerence. I want to make sure that it's very clear that I don't have romantic feelings for you. You might have intimate feelings towards this person, like very close, like platonic feelings, which maybe look into queer platonic relationships, possibly. That might be a closer analog to your experience. And you know, that person, like, and then you can say, like, I really want to make sure that you are making the right decision long-term for yourself, because I don't want you to be in this relationship where ultimately your needs are not going to be met because I'm not going to necessarily reciprocate these feelings that you are experiencing. And then the other person, as an adult, can make the decision of, like, I want to stay in this relationship, kind of accepting and knowing where I'm at, and not trying to actively make you change your feelings. I think that's where this gets dangerous, is like when you have incongruent feelings between two people and there's a struggle and one person's trying to change the other person's feelings. I think that's where a lot of the messiness comes in. I think it's possible to have, as long as it's not extreme, like to have a bit of a disparity in relationship, especially because in this case, I don't think it's really love. I think it's limerence, which is kind of an inherently unstable state that's not going to be permanent. I think if it was like genuinely like, I've been with this person for 2 years and they're totally in love with me and I'm not in love with them literally at all. If it's that situation where you've been like, you know, you're cohabitating, this person like wants to spend the rest of their life with you in a monogamous marriage and they're totally in love with you, you don't have those feelings at all, that's a different situation. But this is new enough and this is mutable enough to where I think we have some flexibility here. So yeah, I would say it's not necessarily doomed. I think it just takes a lot of openness and a lot of willingness to just be very honest about where the relationship is at, and like being maybe even outlining very clearly, like, these are the emotional needs that I can meet for you. These are the things that I can't do. And, you know, having to both commit to like, we're not going to actively try and make the other person change their mind or feelings about the other, and like decide if you can be comfortable with that or not. But I think if you are enjoying this relationship where it's at, if they're enjoying it where it's at, if you feel fulfilled by this, I think it, you know, is it the healthiest coping mechanism in the world to like lean on a relationship when you're sort of exhausted from dating and you don't want to have to leap back into that right away, and you're getting like comfort in your connection with this person? Like, it's not maybe the most healthy thing I've ever heard of, but I don't think that it's the least healthy thing either. I think it's totally okay to be with someone, and know that's what the relationship is. Again, it's about honesty. It's about having those places for dialogue open, and that's really what it is. So yeah, I'm sorry you're going through all that. Also, hi, welcome, Aaron. I know when Aaron's in the chat, I just have to look for a sup, and I know that it's Aaron or a what's up. Yeah. I thought it was more of a, oh, wait, I saw some follow-up stuff. Okay, so I think that's kind of my thoughts on that for now. Oh, wait, we have more. We have possibly 2 extensive talks about our feelings. Love that. Good job. Really maybe sounded a little, I didn't intend for that to sound condescending. I'm just trying to read it at the same time. I mean that genuinely. My partner tried to convince me that I was in love at first, but they don't anymore. But I do tick all the love boxes. I just don't have romantic feelings for them. Well, I guess then I would say, love does not have to be an exclusively romantic thing. Romantic love is a thing, and certainly the way that people write about love and talk about love is taken as a romantic thing. But like, we love our families, and that's not romantic, right? Otherwise, that's called emotional incest, and maybe just regular incest. Like, we love our families. I love my dog. Like, there's friends that you love. Like, I have friends that I love. Like, there's people in our lives that we can love without that love being romantic. So you maybe are just like experiencing like a queer platonic kind of love for this person, or or maybe like, I think it's also possible you can technically tick all of the like, technically this is what love counts as boxes. And also maybe it's that like your idea of like what love should feel like is not matching up with like what your like bodily experience of that is, because like, what does it mean to be in love? And also I think the feeling that people tend to associate with love is actually more likely to be limerence than love, because I find like love is a very stable emotion. Love is like, the moment you realize you're falling in love is very intense, and the experience of becoming in love is intense. But when you get to when you go through this and you get to this stage, right, where it's just smooth sailing, it's kind of like a low background hum of warmth. I don't know if I'm explaining this well at all. It's like a low background hum of warmth where you just have pleasant feelings about this person. You like them. You like the connection you have with them. It brings you reassurance and joy. And that's always there. But it's not like this like Bambi Twitter pated, mind fuzzy, when I think about them, I kick my little feetsies like a schoolgirl kind of thing. Like that's more of a limerancy kind of feeling. Platonic love is like a bromance, right? Yeah, sure, why not? It could be like a bromance. Definitely be like a bromance. Am I that predictable? I wouldn't say that you're predictable. I would say you have a distinct brand. You have a distinct brand. Oh gosh. So that is what I would say about that, I guess. But I don't know. Like if it isn't like, love is ultimately a feeling, and it's subjective, right? And even if you can technically meet all the boxes of like, this is what other people say love is like, if you're not feeling it, if you're like, this isn't really feeling like what I think my experience of love would be if I've experienced it before, or I would be experiencing it with this person, what I anticipate that feeling like if it were to happen, and that's not true for you, it's not true for you, and that's okay. You might be experiencing a different type of love, or just a very deep affection for this person. It doesn't have to be love. And let's for a second talk about a beautiful phrase called metanormativity. I've talked about this in a video. Tara has a great video about this called, I think, just a metanormativity, where, and I'm a very love-focused person, all right? I love love. I love romance. Romance is the batteries keep me going. But the world is very focused over monogamous, sexual, romantic love feelings, but it's not the be-all end-all. It's not actually better inherently than anything else, and it's okay if the feelings you have are not maybe categorized as that. Last thing I promise, I feel like love is something I feel the need to tell them, but right now I don't, so I think I shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I get the sense of like, feeling compelled that should be, that like a should. There's a should there. And I get that. Stop shooting yourself. That's what my therapist would say. Stop shooting yourself. And I think if you get to a place, hopefully, where you can just accept your feelings for what they are and not trying to recategorize them or make them happen to be something else that they're not, or convince yourself you're feeling something differently, just accepting that's like, hey, this is where my feelings are. I think just being able to sit with that, be comfortable with that, will be very positive for you. But I wish you luck. I hope if this relationship is giving you joy and is making you happy in your life, there's not a reason to give up on it or that it will implode. It might change shape, especially if you do decide you want to date other people or get back into that dating pool market, which is an uncomfortable thing to think about doing. But there's no reason to give up on stuff that makes you happy. She is. She's a beautiful girl. She's sleepy. This is like her sleep mode hour, and I love it. She's in standby mode. That's what she's on. She's on standby mode. All right, let's get to some more questions, y'all. Thank you so much. Oh, what have I done? Not enough memory to open the page. What did I do this time? What tabs do I have open that are making this so angry? All right, let's... I guess maybe having my own live stream open is like too much for my computer to deal with. All right, let me reload this thing here. Will that work now? I hope so. My computer has been kind of like weird issues lately. How can one tell the difference between limerence and the feeling of new love? And where's the threshold of realizing it's no longer obsessive like most love is? That is a great question. And again, I'd probably recommend any of like John Gottman's books. I feel like this is kind of like his exact wheelhouse, and it's been a minute since I've read some of these books, so I don't have like a quote handy for you. But in my subjective, non-scientific, non-studied opinion, what I would say is there's limerence happens first, but I think new love happens alongside limerence to an extent. And I think there's a point where like limerence starts up here, love is here, and then they kind of cross eventually, and then the limerence goes all the way down, and then there's just love. And then love kind of evens out to be in a more or less like, steady state. And there are people for whom, like you get the 70-year-olds who are like, I fall more in love with my wife every day. And like, there are some people where maybe it's like a 0.01% increase every day. It's very slow, very steady, right? It's not being rocked constantly by like intense emotions and fear and attachment anxiety and all of that. So I think the point in which you feel like, the point in which you start to feel like new love happening is the point, and this is just my intuition about it, is the inflection point of when your limerence is intersecting with love. When you both have those feelings of obsession with like a desire for emotional well-being and growth, a deep level of care about the person, when you have all these things intersecting at the same time, and I think that's what makes new love so powerful, is it's the intersection of those two experiences happening at the same time, which is like the biggest dopamine hormone, oxytocin, all of the, psychobabble neurochemical stuff happening all at the same time. That's what I think is probably happening there. But like I said, like eventually those two things diverge. And it might happen very quickly. It might happen like all at once. It might happen very slowly over time. The limerence slowly goes down. And in terms of the threshold of realizing that it's no longer an obsession, that's an interesting one. Because I think, like, we're also kind of having to deal with, well, there's, like, attachment and, like, different people attach differently. So if you're somebody who has, like, a preoccupied or anxious attachment style, that, like, obsessive quality is maybe not likely to go away unless you develop a secure attachment to the person, which we're getting into, like, attachment theory. And this, I'm not a therapist, not a doctor. If you want to learn more about attachment theory, there's tons of great books about it. Also talked about in Gottman's work, also talked about in books like Polysecure, which I recommend all the time in this channel. Lots of stuff in there about attachment theory. But if you're somebody who's more anxiously attached or has a preoccupied attachment, you're probably still going to feel a lot of those, like, like, I want to know what my partner's doing all the time, or like very frequently, I'm always thinking about them, always like wondering when I'm going to see them again. And depending on the nature of your relationship, right? Like if you're long distance, if maybe your partner works long hours, if you're going to school, if you have separate work schedules, right? They work days, you work nights. That feeling of preoccupation is, I think, a lot more likely to last longer because you're not in that stable part of the relationship yet, because you have these structural things that are making it so it's a lot harder for it to become stable. But I think when you get to a point where you can comfortably, like, have your own days apart, I think that's when you've gotten to that point of like, we've made it through the woods. We are no longer in the obsessive thing. Like if you can have a weekend where you and your partner are both doing separate things, right? Like they're going on a boys trip, they're going camping, and you're gonna have a girls weekend. You're gonna go drinking to celebrate your friend Maddie's engagement or whatever. I don't know if I'm picking up shit that I think vanilla people do on the weekends. This is what I think normies do on the weekend. I think they have bachelorette parties and they go on camping trips with the boys. That's what I think they do. I think when you get to that point where you can comfortably be separated and not instantly be like, oh my God, I miss you so much. I want to see you every second of every day of every hour. Like when you can get past that, and this is not to say you don't miss your partner or you don't wish that you could spend time with them or would prefer to spend it with them, but you can like handle it. There's a difference between it happening and it being like, oh, I wish I could see you this weekend, but like have fun, honey, and being able to like handle that emotionally, deal with it, have your own fun time, not let it interfere with and ruin your whole weekend. Versus like, there's like, I'm in love with my partner. I go to my friend Maddie's bachelorette party and we have a great time and we go drinking and we go to the Magic Mike, like Chippendale's place or like whatever. I don't know what people do on bachelorette parties. Like, and you can just have a fun time and do that. And then reconnect afterwards and be like, oh my gosh, we had such a great weekend. I had such a great weekend. Like, oh my, Maddie's getting married. It's so fun. It's so exciting. I'm developing this whole role play in my head about Maddie getting married and what this friend group looks like. This is becoming too elaborate in this example. So you can have that, you can reconnect and be, fun afterwards, versus the obsessed version is like you're at Maddie's bachelorette party, but instead of like actually focusing on celebrating her engagement, you're like looking at your phone the whole time. You're like sneaking in the bathroom to check your phone. You're constantly talking about this person, like every like you don't pass the Bechdel test. Like you don't pass the Bechdel test. You just talk about your partner the whole time. You talk about how much you miss them. You like, even if you're in another conversation, you're kind of still thinking about like, I wonder what they're doing right now. Like that's when the obsession will stay there. But again, if you have a preoccupied or an anxious attachment, you probably are still going to have some of those thoughts, even if you are in a love state, simply because of your attachment. But that's sort of how I think about it. I don't know if that's helpful at all. In Swedish, limerance translates to love poisoned, and I find that pretty funny. That seems accurate. Was that the vanilla accent? I think it was. I didn't even know that there was one, but I guess there is. That's why I'm always happy to support her staying home. The world outside sucks. That's true. That is true. The outside, as I oftentimes say, within my groups of humans, other people suck. Other people do suck. Yeah, exactly. Can my boyfriend come? Yeah, if it's a bachelorette party, no, he can't come. This is for the girls. This is a girls' day. Yeah. If every thought ends with, could I be doing this with them? Can I invite them? Could I see them? Could I talk to them? Congratulations, now you know what limerence is. And if you can navigate the day without having that thought once, you've made it. You've existed. Girls' night is everyone drinking a beverage while doing a puzzle and filling everyone in on the happenings or gossip. I love that, actually. That's so wholesome. I love doing a little puzzle. I love doing a little puzzle with the girls. And we, I don't know, they probably talk about what happened on Real Housewives. That's what I think that's the shows I think they watch. Maddie is obsessed with Real Housewives, specifically of Salt Lake City, and loves doing puzzles and has been trying for 3 years to do a paint and sip and hasn't been able to coordinate it yet. That's my Maddie headcanon. I used to have a character that was like a vanilla like DS couple. And I want to say that her name was Becca. I think I had like a wholesome Midwestern DS couple. I don't remember. I think I gotta kind of tap back into that again. That was a fun thing to reference. The notion of Evie at a male review for a bachelorette party, just too much more. Like, this would be me the whole time. Just, you know what? If they can dance, I would support them. Listen, if those boys could bust a move, if they know how to pole dance, I will support the hell out of them. I will be golf clapping. I'm gonna look carefully, but I will be supporting them. She is jealous of all the attention I'm getting. It's true. The first new questions are, in fact, Evie's questions. It's true. All right. Let's talk about some other stuff. All right. I'm scrolling. Insert scrolling music here. Oh, no. Okay. I can go back farther in chat. So this is where we're going to start from. And for some reason, the first thing I saw is this makes me think of arranged marriages. And I don't know what that's in reference to. So I don't know. In the back of my head, Dan Savage is telling me it's only been 4 months. Just, yep, yeah. Okay, good. I saw some people saying they found their local community, and I did see that earlier. Going to the community, going to their first play parties, going to Munches, going to events. That's very exciting. Congratulations to everyone here in the chat who is going to their first play parties and playing for the first time this weekend, last weekend, in the near future. That's a big deal. Those are big steps. And I'm very proud of you all because it takes a lot of work to find a place, find the right people, go to dungeons. And, just like round of applause, all right? Round of applause for the whole class. I was spelling Maddie in my head, M-A-D-D-Y. Oh, yes, the 4B movement. Thank you. I did see that question too. I know a little bit about the 4B movement. I don't have any strong opinions about it, although I have seen people say that it's also transphobic, which is not good. We do not like more types of feminism with transphobia. I understand people's, and I'm not going to talk about politics, because we don't talk about politics here, but I will say I understand people's desire to obtain more bodily autonomy and to do what they can to advocate for getting more bodily autonomy and being able to maintain their own well-being and self-interest. Definitely get that. However, I'm not loving any movement that is like openly involving a TERF ideology. That's not something that's for me. I understand the principles behind it, and far be it for me as a fucking American to critique the way that somebody in a totally different country is conducting their feminism outside of saying that transphobia is bad. Like, my understanding is Korean sexism is like advanced sexism. Like, the floor for sexism, misogyny in Korea is like advanced misogyny for America. Like, just real bad stuff. Really, really bad stuff. I'm like, sounds terrible. And I have thought to myself, like, I am extremely glad that I was not born in South Korea or that I never moved to South Korea. The work culture, the sexism, the schooling culture in South Korea sounds like a fucking nightmare, and I would never want to live there. And I'm very sorry for, like, it seems like a beautiful country otherwise. Like, it seems like it'd be nice to visit, but they've seemed to have a lot of social issues that I personally don't think I could deal with, and it would be scary. So those are my thoughts about 4B. I don't believe it. I haven't seen a round of applause at Scouts. I know. That's why I did it. I was like, wait, I have an idea. Because I also haven't done a round of applause, I think, since I was in Girl Scouts. So, the memories. The memories. Okay. Here's another question. Hey, Evie, I had my first impact scene recently, and I was wondering your thoughts on if it's weird to like doing painful play without being a masochist. Like, I don't get pleasure out of the pain. It's just pain, but it's like thematically cool. I love that way of saying it. Thematically cool. And the after effects bruises are fun. Oh boy, do I have a concept for you. You're going to love this. So yes, first of all, masochism can mean a lot of different things. If you don't feel that masochism is a term that resonates with you, that's great. I think that there's room for a diverse variety of experiences under the label of masochism. And if you like doing pain play, but just because of the themes and the after effects, I think you are allowed to call yourself a masochist if you want to, but you don't have to. That's totally okay. I know people that are like what I would call very heavy bottoms that do not identify as being masochists. Like there's one person I'm thinking of in particular that I know has a play partner that they do extremely intense edge play with, who is not a masochist, who does it as an act of service for her partner because they have a DS relationship. And that is how she gets kind of that side fed, is through that kind of extreme service. What I would say is there is a concept, and I learned this from an educator named Naj, who is retired from the BDSM world. As far as I know, she doesn't educate anymore, or they don't educate it anymore. But I think that they got this from somewhere else. I don't know what this originated from, but there's 2 types of fun. Technically, there's probably more, but the 2 types I know of that exist in this categorization, there's 2 types. Type 1 fun is like directly fun. Actually, wait, I can Google this. I can quote directly. I don't know. There might be type 3. Okay, so type 3 is just not when it's fun, so that's why it's not included here. Okay, so type 1 fun is fun that's while it's happening. It's fun that's enjoyable in the moment, and then that means that you would do it again. You know, going to a party, going to an amusement park, eating a cake, taking a nice walk through a garden with beautifully scented roses, you know, that kind of thing. It's fun when you do it, and you would immediately want to do it again, right? Type 2 fun is fun that is not necessarily fun in the moment, but is rewarding after the fun is completed, right? So running a marathon, going on a long backpacking trip, maybe like weightlifting, rock climbing. I think actually that's where this originally comes from, is like rock climbing or like kind of more intense outdoorsy sports, or like kink, right? For a lot of people, maybe the anticipation of it is fun. They like the idea of creating the scene, but in the moment they don't fucking enjoy it at all. And they're like, this is awful. I hate this. Why did I agree to do this? But they do it. And then afterwards they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. I'm so glad that I did this. And it's not that like some people are like type 1 fun people and some people are type 2 fun people. Like anyone can enjoy either one of these types of fun. And again, type 3 is not even really like a type of fun. It just means that it's never fun at any point in time, before, during, or after, and you never voluntarily do it again because you don't enjoy it at all. And it's because of how type 2 fun works, because it involves like this aspect of like endurance, getting through something you don't enjoy, and then arriving at this feeling of like accomplishment because you got through something that was really intense or really difficult for you, that can actually make like type 2 fun more like in a behavioralism kind of way. It can make type 2 fun more incentivizing to do, because type 1 fun, like it's sort of like I don't know if this is like a perfect one-to-one analogy. Psychology people correct me. But like, if a mouse has a button that gives it a treat, if it always gets a treat every single time it presses the button, it will press the button less and actually get less treats overall than if the button pressing does not give it a treat consistently every single time it presses the button. Like the lack of consistent reward, actually, and the fact that it takes more effort to actually get the reward, actually kind of weirdly makes it more rewarding overall, to the point that you're psychologically willing to try harder. Essentially, you're psychologically more willing to put more effort into that thing. So you might not be like a type 1 masochist, but you might be like a type 2 masochist, or a type 2 bottom, maybe, let's say, where you enjoy the after effects of it, like you were saying, or you enjoy maybe the way that it facilitates role play that you enjoy doing, or maybe there's like an exhibitionist quality to your play as well. There's not even just you, but like people in general. This is kind of what can happen for people. And yeah, that is what I would say about type 1 and type 2 fun. So I would say it's pretty normal. There are a lot of people that when they're doing kink play, they do, like, you'll hear a lot of like, fuck you, I fucking hate this, this is awful, I'm never doing this again. Like, you will hear a lot of screaming and yelling where you are absolutely certain the person in the moment is not enjoying it, and they might not be, but they keep opting into that experience because it's rewarding for other reasons. I would say actually an enjoyment of impact play or sadomasochism from a type 2 perspective is probably more common than experiencing it as a type 1 thing. Because a type 1 fun experience probably requires like having a certain amount of like easy either sexual pleasure or like adrenaline rush from the thing that you're experiencing, and that's not something that most people can like consistently tap into, or that you have like a psychological like relationship with play such that it like is implicitly just enjoyable and feels good directly. And I think a lot of new people expect that like if you're a masochist, the way that you experience pain is by it feeling good immediately. Like you get spanked, the spanking in that moment as you feel it is like, that was so pleasant. Like, and for some people it is that way where they're like, they get like aroused by it maybe, or they get psychologically aroused, not physically aroused. And that is true for some people, but certainly not for all. Most people that are doing impact play or doing pain play, they like it for other reasons than just like, this feels really good. So hopefully that helps answer your question. OMG, I think you nailed me. I don't like the act, but I like having a red bum with a few bruises. I hate flipping the role with hubby. Hubby is type 1, almost definitely. I have met, actually, I think that is like my experience with male masochists is that for some reason, there are more masochistic men who are into like type 1 masochism where like they like any kind of pain, they like any intensity of pain, and they just like it. Like it's not a complicated psychological loop-de-loop process to enjoy it. They just like it. And I have met like 1 or 2 women that are that way, but for men it seems to be a little bit more common. Intermittent reinforcement is the best way to create addictions. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're essentially like, it's not quite, and that's why I'm like, I don't think this is a perfect analogy because like the mouse example is like intermittent reinforcement, but I think there is like almost sort of not perfectly the same, but a sort of psychological intermittent reinforcement that comes with like playing with type 2 fun, where it's not fun, but then it is fun, but then it's not fun, but then it is fun. And like sometimes it can be more fun than other times. And like you kind of, it varies. There's enough of a variance in the schedule, right? That maybe it kind of taps into a similar psychological phenomenon. I'm not sure at all. Not a psychologist, haven't studied this, but that's, brains are weird. What do you want from me? Brains are weird. It's been a mental struggle reconciling wanting to be an equal partner as his wife and as his underling servant. Underling servant, I get that. Who wants to have less than him in the dynamic sense. It's the yin-yang kind of thing. Yeah, trying to find a place where you get both of those needs met is definitely, that's a complex one. Like, I think having a vanilla relationship and a kink one simultaneously is really nice, but when you have, this, I both want to be egalitarian in the vanilla relationship, but the non-egalitarian in the kink one. Yeah, it's a tough road. It's a tough road. No, not Limerance, not Limerick, not Limerick. Okay, wait, give me 1 second. I gotta turn off the heater. All right, we're back. I know I moved Papita. I moved my little Papita. She has her sleepy grin on, which is one of her best grins. It's her grinchiest grin, and I love it. Oh no, did it freeze? Pet camera froze. It did. I fixed it. I think literally any time I touch the camera cord, it freezes. All right, holy crap, it's already almost 7:30, so I don't know where the last hour and a half went. Apparently theorizing about Maddie and her fucking bachelorette party. I think that's what I wasted all that time on. Oh, goodness. Like, I'm reaching the limits of, do I want the power imbalance to be so all-consuming? And I have to keep it healthy and realistic? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's activated. Now she's in standby mode again. All right, going back in the chat here. Let's answer some more questions. Speaking of showing up at a dungeon, one of my femme friends went to a dungeon with her partner, and suddenly she saw her mother sitting in the corner chatting with a friend. It was a pretty tense situation. I cannot think of anything that would be more horrifying in a dungeon. I would rather see almost any other type of scene, any type of, outside of like maybe like a fire happening, like a safety issue. I cannot think of anything I would rather have happen less than like see a close family member at a dungeon. Some people do it. Some people have like, they have to navigate having like a parent or like a sibling in the scene. I don't know how the fuck you do that. I mean, if you live in the same city and you both want to do public kinky, I mean, you have to work it out somehow, but my God. Sounds terrible. 0 out of 10 would not want to have that experience. I congratulate myself for finding my kink if it was right in front of me and I didn't know anything about it until now. I mean, yeah, I do. Don't take anything for granted. I think if you have the ability to experience kink and you know what it is now, just appreciate that you know it now, because you can't beat yourself up about the past or like wasted time or whatever. All right. Maybe you were raising kids. Maybe you were working on your career. Like, you were doing other things with your life, probably, that were also worthwhile, and now you get to enjoy kink, so focus on that. If you want to focus on it. You don't have to, obviously. You can have kink be like a little seasoning accent to your life if you want to. Oh, this was the question about the 4B movement. Do you think this will have any impact on kink communities? I certainly think the election will have an impact on the kink community. What shape that will take, I don't know yet. As I've said in videos, I think currently, and this was before the election, but this is more or less still true. I am still afraid that, like, some libs of TikTok or Matt Walsh, or heaven fucking forbid, a like Fox News group of people will probably try to, in a bigger production kind of way, go after like a queer kink party. I don't think that they're gonna go after like the old 50-year-old white leather dudes. I don't think they might go after the gay men's community. I think it's more likely they're gonna go basically, like, to be honest, where the trans women go. I think they're gonna be going to the more general queer and trans inclusive events and parties. And trying to make some kind of salacious insinuations about, indoctrinating kids or doing something like that. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I think is most likely to happen. I don't think the 4B movement is going to have an impact on the kink community specifically. But I certainly think that, in the way that we do vetting for anything in kink, I think it's going to be important to vet the people that run venues, that are hosting munches. I have found that oftentimes they're the people you medium to most expect. The people I have known that are very conservative in the kink community have pretty much always not made bones about it and are pretty open about it, either in their like post history on FetLife or the people they follow on Instagram or wherever. Like, it's known. I mean, some people do hide it intentionally, but to be honest, they're mostly like pretty proud of their political beliefs. So it's not the hardest thing to work out in the world. I certainly do not feel particularly safe going to kink events that are organized by like, far right conservative people or people who believe fundamentally that like women shouldn't have a right to their, autonomy. Regardless, right? It's not even just about men feeling the way about women. I think anyone of any gender, any sexual orientation, if you have a fundamental belief that some category of people based on their gender or sex are inferior implicitly because of how they are genetically, or how they choose to, present themselves socially, that's a problem that I don't feel like that aligns with my values. And so I don't want to go to events where that's the case, where that is part of the philosophy. But that's me, right? And that's about as much as I'm kind of willing to say on politics in sort of the narrow sense that it impacts kink communities, because maybe that's something that's worth thinking about for other people. But that's about where that conversation begins and ends. Well, they aren't going after the Midwestern Christian swingers, that's for sure. Yep. Yeah, they're not going. Yeah, they're not going to Minnesota and taking out any of the swingers venues, are they? I've been attacked by rad femmes who think power exchange is inherently rooted in patriarchal hierarchy of dominance, even though no men are involved. Exactly. That's what they do. That is what they do. And it never helps anything. It will take the same shape it always has. Hypocrisy. Yeah, there's a whole bunch in this book. There's a whole section in this book that literally just talks about how like conservatives on average are like way more into like taboo fantasies than anyone else. Like, they watch more taboo porn. They have more taboo fantasies of every kind, including the illegal kinds. So Make of that what you will. That information is now out there in the space. Yeah, I feared infiltrating a sex cult doc or video essay. You can edit footage into whatever direction you want. Yeah, if you just put in scary music and a voiceover, you can make anything seem like anything. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. Okay, everyone's writing limericks in the chat now. I'm not gonna read them, but I like that everyone's doing it. I like how we're doing poetry practice in the chat. Sunsets. Oh god, I don't know how to pronounce this. Theranthropy. Did I get close? Theranthropy. One of those two. I'm confident I'm close with one of those two. Since it's Theranthropy Day today, do you have an opinions on Therians in the kink community? Do I have an opinion? I don't have any strong feelings. I'm trying to think if I've ever met somebody who identified specifically as a Therian. I've met a lot of furries. Met people who have fursuits, met a lot of people who have fursonas, or people who like furry porn. All that's very common. I wouldn't say that, like, you know, it's becoming more of a thing. I've seen it at Folsom more recently. I've seen it at, like, Kink Fest. I think last year there's people in fursuits. But I know furries and Therians are not the same thing even remotely, but that's sort of like, what's another kind of, like, other subculture that I've seen at the kink community level? Yeah, I don't think I've ever met anyone who identifies as a like. It's not like I know that it has to exist, right? Like I know it has to be out there. I just don't know. I moved a cord again. Did that probably freeze the camera? Let me find out. It did. It did freeze the camera. Great. Not that anything's gonna change. Oh no. Oh, you can kind of see her. Gonna see. I think I accidentally pulled. Did I pull out the cord? Did I really? I like barely touched it. I did. All right. The pet camera is of critical importance, so it must be maintained at all times. It's like angry at me now. Oh, it's frozen. That's not good. All right, I might have to turn off the pet camera for now, but technically you can see it right there. Okay, I'm gonna get through this question and then I will maybe troubleshoot the camera, get that figured out. I don't have strong feelings. It's definitely not a big subsegment of the community, I would say, but I don't care if you're a furry. I don't care if you're an other kid. I don't care if you're a Therian. I don't care whatever your personal beliefs, your feelings about spirituality, religion. I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Wiccan, whatever. I have basically two things that I care about in the kink community. Informed consent. That's number one, right? Are you practicing informed consent? Two, do you have beliefs that mean you think other people are fundamentally lesser than you or some other group? That's pretty much it. If you have beliefs that other groups are inherently lesser, that means the first one, really hard to do. Basically impossible. And that's all I care about. I don't care if as long as you're doing that, this is my thing. I don't think that there is like one singular truth to the universe. I don't think that there's one thing that's completely right. In terms of like what's true about human nature or our brains or spirituality or whatever. I don't know if we can even discern that. So it's far be it for me to tell anyone that their belief system about their soul or like what they relate to is wrong. Just don't be phobic and don't have bigoted beliefs. That's it. That's all I think. That is really all it needs to be. But I haven't seen any sort of like open representation of like Therianism or Theranthropy at any sort of kink event. So I'd be curious about that if that ever like came together, and maybe I could talk to some people about that. But you know, I think there is definitely as long as you don't do the Tumblr thing of like, oh my god, the pet players are stealing our hashtags. As long as you don't do that, we'll be fine. Twixie, thank you so much for your donation. Currently experiencing serious drop due to trying to use kink as a coping mechanism for recent events, and now my dopamine is shot. Any aftercare ideas when tea, food, and bath are not enough? Yes, so, I mean, I think when you are dealing with a situation where, like, the physical caretaking is not up to snuff, maybe, let's say, I think it's kind of worth looking at, okay, what are we doing physically already? Maybe could it be improved? For example, like I have like an ashwagandha tea that I drink that's supposedly good for like mood stability. This is not a medical recommendation. This is like what I've been told to use by like my medical providers. You do your research about that. Maybe like try an ashwagandha tea. Maybe see if that helps you out a little bit. I've wanted to do more research into this, and I haven't found very much. But I think foods that like support neurotransmitter production is like really important. So usually that means like omega fatty acids, right? So if you're not a vegan, you know, eggs, fish, things like that. If you are a vegan, taking an omega supplement is probably a good idea. You know, practicing good sleep hygiene is always a good idea. So like not using your phone immediately before bed, not exposing yourself to too many blue lights. You know, having some kind of consistent sleep routine is always a good idea. And then for things like body care, if you do have any kind of like muscle soreness, if you have cramping, if you have like discomfort in your body, I really feel like it's MSM and magnesium are really helpful. You can either take those again as oral supplements, or you can have them in a bath. Again, not medical advice. Don't take anything without talking to your doctor first. I've just personally found that to be helpful for me if I'm having like, you know, it's good for like restless legs. It's good for, you know, if you've got a lot of bruises, like that actually really helps me relax enough to be able to calm down and, you know, have more productive sleep and to actually get more rest. But if I need more like emotional aftercare support, I do think that like social support can be really important. So talking to people and being around people that you feel supported by. So maybe that means like, you know, people in this community. Maybe that means like just having a friend, not even like talk to you, but just like chill next to you for a little bit while you like sit and like watch a movie, or you have a girls' night, you do a puzzle together, and you just like stay silent. Like I almost think about like spa rules, okay? Like we're going to have a fun time together, but we're not going to say shit, because like sometimes talking can take more energy out of us, and we maybe don't want to do that verbal processing. We just want that support of knowing somebody that cares about us is close by. So just kind of like almost like co-processing by having somebody near us can be really beneficial. And also, it's like for the emotional part, like a lot of it, I'm trying to think of like what I would like, what do I do? Because I don't know how accessible your like top is to talk about, or I guess your bottom. I don't know. I'm kind of presuming that if you're doing processing stuff, it was probably bottoming. But like your play partner, maybe let's say more generally, like if they're available just to like talk about stuff. And to like process things, or to not process and just talk about other random life stuff. That can be really good. Like for myself, I found it to be very helpful to do like little video chats, or just kind of little like bird peeps, you know, during the day of like thinking about you. Here's a photo of a cute thing I saw, you know, looking at cute, fun stuff. And that being helpful, just again, kind of maintaining that emotional connection. Because oftentimes I find like, depending on the source of the emotional drop, like it could be like feelings of loneliness, feelings of abandonment, feeling, you know, sad, worn out, tired, you know, feeling emotionally out of control, feeling not like yourself, kind of those classifications of feelings. And like voice chats can definitely be really nice. Or even just like getting a voice note from a person that you really care about. Just like, it sounds cheesy, but like, you know, it's okay to ask a partner for like, hey, so I'm feeling not so great. I really love it if you could take like 10 seconds and just send a little voice note. Let me know you're thinking about me. And just having like a voice note to wake up to, where somebody says like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're having a nice day. You know, I care about you. I'm here for you if you need anything. Even that by itself can be a good mood booster. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would include with that. Wait. There's a DBT tool I haven't checked yet. There's always a DBT tool. All things lead back to the Bible. all things lead back to the Bible. I love this book so much. All right, let's look at sadness, y'all. Let's look at sadness. Because I also, like, for me, I have, like, comfort things that I watch, right? So, like, I like You Got Mail. I like The Parent Trap. I like I don't know, the kind of class of movie, whatever that is, like 90s movies that are kind of like feel good and non-tense. Those kind of help me feel better and more. That's actually what I watched. I watched You Got Mail recently as sort of like an emotional support movie. Here we go. Let's see. Opposite actions for sadness. Get active, approach things, avoid avoiding, build mastery, and increase pleasant events. Be present in the moment. Oh yeah, mindfulness. We didn't even talk about mindfulness, did we? Sorry, you're gonna hate this. The answer is mindfulness. Mindfulness practice is actually a really big one. That, like, across the board for so many things is, like, so good. Being present in the moment, connecting with your partner, and then also, like, dealing with intense emotions. I really like... I don't like doing, especially if you're dealing with, like, negative emotions, I don't really like body scan type things where it's, like, focus on your breathing and, like, you know, go from your you know, toes to your scalp, thinking about every physical sensation in your body, because I actually think can be really uncomfortable for people. I do like ones that are focusing on, like, either just the breath or encouraging you to, like, notice things about your surroundings, like, listening to the different aspects of your senses, like... A lot of the advice that I usually kind of give in general for, like, emotional regulation stuff and also for kink stuff is involving as many senses as possible and, like, being actively present in your body in a way that, like, feels comfortable, right? So there's, like, you know, peeling and eating an orange in the shower while, like, listening to music or something, because you got the sound, you got the taste, you got the touch, you got all these different sensory experiences you're having, and just, like, fully focusing in on that. But it doesn't have to be that exact thing, right? It could be anything that's really involving a complete sensory experience and just being, like, present in that and really, like, appreciating it for what it is. And that it's, like, a fun moment of human experience that you're, you know, it could also be, like, eating a piece of cake on the couch while watching a movie. Could also be a mindful activity if you choose to make it that way. You can have it be a mindless kind of, like, you know, I don't know what I'm doing with my life anymore kind of thing. Or it could be a mindful activity if you choose to engage with it in a sensory way. But anything that involves a high level of sensation is good. And then there's somewhere in this book, there's like, it's right here. I flipped right to it. The universe was guiding me in that moment. There's, like, a whole list of, like, pleasant experiences that we can, people, this is Emotional Regulation Handout 16. Google it. If you want a copy of this, Almost All of Us workbook is available for free somewhere online. Do not let, I don't know, money issues come between you and better mental health. But there's, like, going to the beach, right? Meeting new people, experiencing beautiful scenery, getting home from work. It's always a big one. You know, practicing yoga, lying in the sun. That's a big one for me, lying in the sun. I like being on a rock in the sun. That's one of my happy places. You know, watching a movie, going on a date, going through your closet, recycling things. Working on your car. I love how working on your car is number one. Working on your car. Number one thing the creator of this book thought of for relaxing activities. Car maintenance. I love that, actually. I know people for whom that probably would be a very pleasant activity. For me, I'd just be confused. I'd be lost. I'd be confused. I'd be horrified. I'd be like, I did something wrong. I'm covered in oil. My day is ruined. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness gracious. Hopefully that gives you some ideas of things to do. Just engaging in other pleasant things, having complete sensory experiences, being in your body in a way that's pleasant. I really like, too, as just a routine practice, but I think, because there's sort of, we can think about things to do that are helpful in the moment after we've experienced something and we want to overcome those negative emotions or, like, get back to our normal state. Maybe is a more positive way of thinking about it. Or we can build resilience, and we can do things that will help us in the future, that will help us experience these negative things or negative consequences less. So having more of those routine, pleasant activities in your life. For me, the big one that I have found has, like, really helped me build up, like, my daily well for my like bullshit, my daily well of bullshit allowance, is having a nightly gratitude practice. It's actually been really good. There's I have a Fitbit. There's like a little Fitbit guided meditation, like nightly gratitude practice where like before I go to bed for like 5 to 10 minutes, I think it's a 10-minute meditation. The reader, the voiceover person, just sort of invites you to think more about your day and like all the little tiny things that you experienced that are nice, that are like, you know, the fall leaves on the tree, the way that it smelled when you went outside in the morning, like reminded you of a crisp fall when you were a child, like, you know, when you took a sip of your coffee, it was the perfect temperature immediately. Yeah. Looking at the moon. Yeah, moon gazing, that can be a pleasant activity. Certain car work can be relaxing. Washing a car on a nice day is pretty drama-free. Good to have drama-free car activities. Swapping a transmission, not so much, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I think, like, yeah, washing a car can be kind of a rhythmic... I like that, actually. Like, washing a car is fun. I agree. I need to figure out how to get ready for bed sooner. I know, that's my eternal struggle, because, like, I have, like, my schedule is sort of weird, and I'm trying to get to a place where I can get to bed earlier, but it's hard because I was like, oh, I want to sit and read my book, and I want to, like, I end up creating such a long, like, bedtime routine, and it's all, like, good things. Like, a bedtime routine is, like, doing skincare, like, doing a quick, like a stretching, like, routine for my pelvic floor, you know, reading a book for, like, 15 minutes, like, doing a gratitude practice, and then suddenly it takes me, like, 2 hours to go to bed because I've made too many good things happen before I go to bed, you know? And that's a struggle. Definitely first world problems, but still a struggle. Is kink only possible through partnered or group dynamics? How would someone explore this on their own beyond fantasizing? Well, do I have another great answer for you? So solo kink is definitely a thing. I have some videos about it. You can definitely do BDSM solo. Either you can literally play by yourself with yourself. There are even parties that people will put together that are focused around this. Certain activities are harder to do to yourself, like it's harder to tickle yourself, right? But you can do impact play to yourself. You can do things like needles to yourself. You can do a wide range of activities to yourself. The bondage is very popular. Bondage, that's like the easiest one to get started with. If you want to explore kink and you want to do it on yourself, bondage is the way to go because it's the easiest. It has the most resources for it. That is where I would start if you want to explore kink solo, because it's also a very supportive community of people who do bondage on themselves, and so that actually makes it a really good learning environment as like a stepping stone for getting into the broader kink community. But you know, even if you wanted to mostly have I would say like a self-focused kink experience without maybe like attached partnerships, maybe you do want to play with other people, pick-up play is certainly an option. You can go to play parties, and like pick-up play is when you go to an event and you like spontaneously that evening negotiate to do something with that person that day, or maybe if it's a longer event, you like maybe you meet on like a Friday and you plan to meet like play on a Sunday. And that would also be like pick-up play, right? I guess there's like, what's the line between like pick-up play and like non-pick-up play for like events that are maybe like more pre-planned, like a convention? Kind of wibbly. It's not a strict definition, but for the most part, that's what pick-up play is. I know. Yes, exactly. Step one for everyone's bedtime routine is the fact that I'm moving my Patreon Thursday streams to be at Tuesdays at a reasonable hour. Exactly. I'm thankful for it. You all are going to be thankful for it, I hope. Yeah, it's going to be good stuff. Okay, oh my gosh. All right, 15-minute warning. If I have not answered your question and you asked it earlier, please put it in the chat again if you would like. I'm going to try to speed around some questions for the last about 15 minutes here. Actually, less than 15 minutes at this point, but please put your questions in the chat. I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. I'll probably end up going a little bit over just because we did start later because of the class I was taking, but hopefully I will make it worth your while for you all to be here. Oh yeah, Chastity. Also, yeah, Chastity is also a good one to do solo if you're into more of that like discipline or like sexual like edging type of thing. It can be good for that. Also matches really well with bondage. Definitely an overlap there. Does anyone know how I got an adorable little hamster after my name? They're supposed to be Pomeranians, but they're very small, so they do kind of look like hamsters. But it's because you got gifted a YouTube membership, so now you're technically a channel member, so you have access to emotes. If you go to the stream chat and you click on the little like emoji button that has like the smiley face, you'll see that you have some new exclusive emotes that you can put in the chat. But that's why you have a hamster next to your name. Oh gosh, that's so funny. Little hamster. Do you have any advice for BDSM stuff for non-binary people? I'm trying to think what's specific to non-binary people. I guess find supportive communities. There's lots of non-binary and trans either focused or inclusive events, munches, etc. that are made by and for trans and non-binary people, which are really fun, and I'm glad they exist. So many non-binary people in the BDSM community. Oh my gosh, all different types, all different flavors. They are everywhere. They are legion. They are among us. And yes, and it was Twixie. Yes, Twixie gifted the membership. I don't know if it was specifically Twixie, but that probably was. If it was during this chat, you just noticed it. I guess if you're playing with cis people or even other trans people that maybe are more binary, that maybe don't have experience with non-binary folks, just be very clear about like, what bits you like being touched, what you like what you like to have them be called, what terms or pronouns you use. A lot of BDSM communities, and not all of them, are very good about talking about pronouns, having that be something that's like explicitly talked about for a negotiation thing. So pronouns you want to use, genital contact, amount of sexual contact, which is kind of like baseline for everyone, but I think is especially important when gender things TM are a factor. And then also like how you want to be referred to, how you want certain things to be talked about or not, or just ignored. All of that's going to be important, I think, to having a probably more positive experience. But like as somebody who's not non-binary, sorry, I am cis. I don't have any necessarily like specific tips about like navigating things. But if anyone does, I'd be more than happy to pass things along and read out a thought. It is supposed to be a Pomeranian. Yes, it is supposed to be a Pomeranian. Lots of non-binary people. I would actually say, I don't want to talk about my partners too much, but I would say, I play with a surprisingly few number of cis people. That would be my answer. It's depending, especially if you're kind of more in my age bracket. If you're like 35 and under, there's gonna be a lot, especially in the local community scene. If you're not in like rural Iowa, it's probably gonna be pretty diverse in terms of that. Is it possible for chastity belts or cages to be unisex? Yes. Will they be referred to as such? Possibly no. But I certainly know most designs can be unisex. I think as I've talked to some other people in this chat about, I know that there are even chastity devices that are meant to, like, for example, if you have like prominent external genitalia, if you're somebody that has a penis, there are chastity devices that can actually flatten that and make that more of a smoother surface. I don't know how to describe this in a YouTube friendly way, but hopefully this makes sense. That actually can be like gender affirming. There are definitely lots of tools and things that we can use in BDSM for gender affirmation. It's kind of outside the scope of my knowledge or things that I like know a whole lot about, but I certainly know other people that do talk about that and have that as part of their kink experience. "45 and over, we collaborate with a shockingly few number of cis people. Most of our contacts are across the spectrum." Yeah. And I think, I don't even know if that necessarily means that like kink attracts people that have like a non-cis experience of gender. I think it could also have to do with the fact that I think people are a lot more able to be open about it in the kink community because it's kind of like safety in numbers, a little bit. And like the kink community is generally a safer place to be out than like your workplace. But I do think that there is, a level of comfort with that in the kink community. All right. Let me actually scroll here for a minute because I saw part of a question and then it moved away. I hate when I lose questions. Okay. I am developing an expanded universe. I can't help it. It's my writer brain. This is what I do. What about demureness? I don't know. I don't know about demureness. Probably a factor for some people. Are there male rad femmes? Oh yeah, probably. That has to be a weird intersection though. I feel like normally the men are just misogynists. They don't go for the rad femme angle, but there probably is. That's a good. They get good engagement. Or maybe not actually, because rad femmes kind of just like hate men. So maybe actually they'd be like, you're not allowed to be a rad femme. No men. Honestly, I have a hard time remembering things can just be fun. Like, you don't have to earn the fun. What? That makes no sense. Exactly. Yeah, it's also probably a chronic pain thing as well. If you have chronic pain or a chronic condition, you're used to everything takes effort. So everything has to involve some level of quote unquote pain. Evie iceberg video when? One day probably. Okay, shoot. Where did it go? Do you have any tips for platonic play and finding others that are looking to engage in it? So probably the best way to find platonic play is through like pickup play. So going to like a general dungeon night where there's some kind of either like a speed dating type thing or some other kind of way to like meet people to casually be like, hey, do you want to do a scene together? Because 9 times out of 10, people that are doing pickup play, like maybe they might want to do sex if like, you know, if it was offered, because if you're playing with this as het man, if sex is on the table, it's going to be like, well, why wouldn't I? You know, like this, you know, that's going to might be the reaction. But a lot of people that are doing pickup play, like they understand that it's going to be strictly platonic and that's where they want to keep it. So that's probably the best way to like meet people very easily, low effort for doing play is going to, it's going to stay platonic. Will be through like going to events and doing kind of more like spontaneous pickup play. If you're going through like dating apps to meet people, or even if you're posting in like groups on FetLife or something, I think it's going to be definitely you will find people that are open to it, but I think a lot more people in those formats are going to be looking for a relationship out of something, either romantic or sexual, and probably both. Also going to like skill shares or like rope jams where you're meeting people in a little bit more of a casual setting. I want to say thanks for answering my questions. You are so welcome. I try my best to get to all of them, but YouTube chat does not keep the best record of questions, so sometimes I miss things, but I'm glad I was able to get to yours. Where was that? Yes. If you are on dating apps, it's probably going to be a little bit harder to meet people that are looking for platonic play. So I wouldn't look there. But if you are going to like jams or skill shares, because those are kind of like more casual environments where you can meet people and like possibly do stuff in more of like a side-by-side kind of way. We're like, oh, we're going to do bondage together. We're going to do this particular type of play. We're both kind of like practice on each other. That can actually be a good way to meet people where maybe you go, oh, hey, I really like getting to meet you. We're both into the same like kink. Maybe like next Friday at the dungeon party, like we can hang out, maybe we can do something. And then they'll be like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, let you know what my schedule looks like. And that's literally what it's like. That's literally how I end up doing. This is how I do platonic play, right? This is what happens. I meet someone and then they're like, oh, I heard you're into this thing. And I'm like, yeah, I am. They're like, great. Would you be open to maybe doing something at the dungeon later? And I'll be like, oh yeah, I have time between like 9 and 10. We could do something. And they're like, great. And then we meet up and then we talk about what we want to do. And then we set some boundaries and then we do the thing and then we hug each other and we talk for a little bit and that's it. There we go. That's all it has to be. Yeah, this video is not sponsored. Definitely not my live stream. It's sponsored by all of y'all. That's who it's sponsored by. All right, my voice is getting worn out. My voice is struggle busting it. Going to my first Munch next weekend. Super nervous to meet new people, and I've chickened out of the last one. Any advice for making it less scary to meet new people? The thing I thought of immediately in my head was the meme of the guy pointing at himself in the mirror, like being like talking himself up. But I like genuinely, to a certain extent, any advice for making it less scary to meet new people? I mean, well, one, like meeting people, especially if you're introverted, can always be scary. In terms of how you want to make this the better experience, consider your environment, right? What conditions do you have control over? Well, what month you're going to, right? So hopefully you feel comfortable. This one you're going to be going to. That's a good first step. Introducing yourself ahead of time, maybe via like a FetLife message or an email to the event organizer to let them know that you're going to be new and you might need some support. That's not a bad idea to do. If you are going to a Munch, I recommend going there earlier because that means fewer people, which means less overwhelming. And also people are less settled into their conversations. I personally think that it's a lot scarier to walk into, messed up conversations, walking into people's conversations. When you are going into an event, if it's an hour into it and everyone's in big groups and there's like a din of people talking, it's a lot harder to break through versus when there's like 4 people and they're just kind of like milling around and like ordering drinks. So going early is going to probably make it a lot easier for you, less overwhelming overall. Making it so it's easier for people to start a conversation with you through like wearing stuff, that maybe is something that's like important to you, like a band t-shirt, some kind of nerd merchandise, a pin or something. Like just come up with a way or something that expresses part of your personal identity and things that you care about, that makes it so people can start a conversation with you about something that's not kink. Ideally, if you can, I recommend going to an event that has some kind of structure to it or some kind of activity at it, like pinball, an arcade, axe throwing, tabletop games, something. I think that can make it a lot easier. Maybe not for this event, but for future events, I think it'll make it easier for meeting new people. There was a thought that went along with that I also had with structure activities. Also too, like the Munch or other events, if they have like icebreakers, if they have like a discussion group type format where it's easier for you to like talk in a prompted way where you don't have to spontaneously start a conversation, that can certainly make it a lot easier. So that's kind of like the setting, right? That's kind of making the setting work for you, making it better. Number 2 is like body language, right? And we're not talking about like body language analysis. Somebody rolls their eyes, it means they're lying. Like not like that way. I mean like the way that you physically hold your body will inform your brain about how you feel to a certain extent, right? Like if you're really anxious and you have anxious body language, that anxious body language reinforces your internal feeling of anxiety. So like looking away, avoiding eye contact, kind of trying to take up less space physically, curling up, doing like self-soothing gestures, that's going to maybe make you feel anxious, even if you're doing it unintentionally. So, do all the things that they say to do to feel confident, right? Don't act like an asshole. Don't start blurting stuff out, but like, keep your back straight, keep your shoulders back, relax your fucking jaw. Number 1, relax your fucking jaw. Make sure you're not clenching. Make sure you're not like squinting, holding tension anywhere before you go in your car or wherever you're at. All right. Just do a quick little check and like individually relax each part of your body. Get really, really tense. Tense everything you can in your whole body. Breathe it out and then relax all of it. All right. And just really, are my fingers tense? Are my shoulders tense? Are my thighs tense? Like, just make sure all of that is out of your system and then go in. Also, if you want to, it's cheesy. You can do like personal affirmations to yourself about like just in your head. Tell yourself that you will succeed. All right. Think about doing things successfully. Plan for success mentally in your head. Picture yourself. If you can, go on Google Maps, look at the event, look at the interior, get a very clear mental image of the thing that you're about to go through. All right. Picture the event happening. Picture yourself going up to the event. Picture yourself approaching one person and saying hi and it going well and them being friendly to you. And then that's going to lead to a whole conversation, right? Mentally practice being successful at the thing you want to do. And you do that a couple of times. If you have a next weekend, you can do this like once a day for like 5 minutes. This is actually something that I got originally from a weightlifting book. From a weightlifting book. In the book, the author had to recover from an injury that took him away from, like, I think, like, squatting or deadlifts or something for, like, a very long time. And so in the time when he couldn't train doing that specific movement, he, like, mentally practiced doing the movement successfully, thinking about the steps that needed to happen in order to make that happen. There's, like, I don't remember exactly what he did, but that's, like, more or less what happened. That's something that's also reinforced in, like, DBT and a couple of other, like, therapy practices. But I originally got it from that book of, like, thinking about, like, the first step to success is, like, mentally practicing being successful. But yeah. Also keep in mind, Munch isn't really any different than any other social club you might attend. The only difference is that occasionally people might talk about kinky stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not, like, also, I guess having an accurate understanding of what you're even going to be walking into is, like, helpful to have. So, like, you're not going to be, I mean, if it's a regular Munch, always outside possibilities of it not being regular. People are not going to be playing. There's not going to be nudity. There's might be conversations about sex and kink, but it's probably not going to be the predominant thing, especially not earlier in the evening. Yeah, good advice. How heavy was the book? Actually pretty heavy. It's a big fucking book. It's a hardback. It's like this big. I don't know how much it weighs, but a lot. more than any of the other books I currently have on my desk. But with that being said, I think that's going to be where we wrap things up for tonight. So let me get... Oh, Bandita went back to her bed. She's sleepy. All right, let me try to actually get the pet camera back on. Let me try to get that back. No, it's still anchoring with me. Is it on? I don't. Let me see. Hi, baby. I wanted to make sure the camera's still working. Okay, there we go. Well, it's plugged in and the light's on. At least it is now. Here we go. There we go. We fixed it. Yay, Benita. The sleepita. If you need royalties for every sup somebody says, you're going to have to sue Philip DeFranco because that man has been stealing from you for years. That man says sup like 70 times a week, probably. You'd be rich. All right, there's Bendita. She's sleepy. As you can see, she's sleepita. She's in sleepita mode. I can lift a small person. I can lift somebody who's my size. I can't lift anyone who's much bigger than that. But anyways, that's going to be it for tonight, y'all. Thank you so much for being here on this Friday evening. It was so great to get to chat with all of you and answer your questions. I really appreciated it. I will be here next Friday. We will not be streaming the Friday of the 29th because it will be Thanksgiving and I will be out of town. So I won't see you then, but come back next week on the 22nd. I will see you then. Thank you all so much. If you've not seen my most recent video on Folsom, go ahead and check it out. It's the most recent video on my channel. It's about some Folsom controversies, both from the current year and previous years. And I will talk to you all again very soon. Stay safe. Have a fun weekend. Stay hydrated. Take care of yourselves. It is flu and COVID season. It is approaching. So if you want to go out to events and you want to not get sick like me, all right, get your flu vaccine, get your COVID vaccine, all right? Stay safe, and I'll talk to you again soon. All right, bye. Yeah? See, I knew. As soon as I said, you know the goodbye word. You're so smart. You know the goodbye word. Look at this. Oh, my gosh. Look at this. She knows the goodbye word. Yeah. You know the Yeah. You want to go? Are you ready? All right. She knows what time. Look at that little face. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah. I know I'm tormenting you because I'm not really done yet, huh?